Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome, one and all, into the iRacing Today radio show for today, which happens to be October the 15th, 2015. We're like halfway to Halloween in the month of October. This is not Halloween. This is show number 117 of the iRacing Today radio show. I am your host, Trevor Cameron. In case that hasn't been established, I have a last name, but I'm pretty sure I've said it all the time. And, of course, as always, with me, being represented by a large, fast-moving vehicle, I have Mr. Chad Dalton. How you doing tonight, Chad?
Doing great. Just going fast.
Just going fast. I just want to go fast. That's it, man. Just want to go fast.
Put me in a race car. Sign me up.
So put me in, coach. I'm ready to play. See, I could have sang that. I decided not to.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have a great show. Of course, what else am I going to say? We got a horrible show for you people. I mean, I don't even know why you showed up.
This is the worst thing ever.
We have got...
We should just quit.
Well, you know what? I mean, we're 117 episodes into it. I mean, I kind of feel like I can't. I mean, it's like an addiction now. I mean, you know, you can't stop.
I think it's time. I think it's time to hang it up. It's gotten pretty bad.
Oh, okay. So just this show will just be it then. I mean, that's you know. Oh, no, yeah. Don't say that. Andy will listen and he'll start rumors.
Yeah, I think we should just hit stop.
And this has been our show. Click, and we're done. Anyway, we have got some news for you guys. We got some information on a upcoming race. We've got some information on a cool promotion that is going on right this very minute. Some information on a very cool league thing that's going on that actually, well, I was going to say directly affects our team. Doesn't it? Anyway, that our team's involved in, which is pretty cool. We have got a story, in case you missed it in the forums. That is actually a very cool story that we want to share with you and help spread the word on, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And, of course, we've got some experiences on the track. We've got, I think, at least one more answer in the favorite track game, I think is what it is. At least one. Might be more. And we have got some feedback and follow-up from last week's episode, which we got some great feedback from you guys. Thank you very much. It looks like you guys really, really appreciate that. And we've got a bit of some news with relation to that as well, which we'll discuss when we get down to, I guess, the segment will be called, we've got news, experiences, and we've got story time with Trevor. Feedback edition. Yeah. We need jingles. So
wow.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, we do.
And with that being said, and that news is pretty cool at the end anyway, so make sure you don't miss that part. Anyway, we will get right into some news here, and I don't know, as Chad mentioned, for some reason he decided to create our show notes in a Rubik's Cube of confusion. And it's like, well, see that thing that's first? We're not going to talk about that first. Like, man, I need a script.
Talk about that last.
I need a script here, man.
Yeah, so it is the Rubik's Cube of the iRacing Today radio show. I like it. But how cool promotion?
Yeah, how about our first news item there, Chad? Which is that cool promotion?
Well, I was getting there. Quit interrupting me.
Sorry.
You can win big with iAnalyze, which, if you don't know, is a very neat program that is a subscription-based program. Just FYI, I want to get that out of the way first. That you can use alongside iRacing, and I'm not going to go into all the details, but it basically analyzes. It's kind of like telemetry almost, where it kind of analyzes your lap and things, different things that the car or that you are doing with the car, like throttle, brake, stuff like that. So it's very neat, and it's a very complex program, but I think it's pretty easy to use from, just the beginner standpoint, so to speak. There's actually somebody that is using it who's on our team, And we have actually asked him to, once he gets more familiar with it, to tell us what the heck it does.
Yep.
So that we can bring it to you guys. But we haven't gotten there yet. So anyways, but there is a cool promotion going on right now with iRacing and the iAnalyze program. And basically, if you run the iAnalyze racing logo on your cars or car as a primary sponsor position during Season 4 and in a Week 13 session as well, iAnalyze Racing Series of your choice for your chance to win your way into the 100% Club. You'll receive enough credits to purchase all the content that you don't currently own, which for me would be the Chevy Silverado, so that wouldn't help me out very much.
I was going to say, this would be a horrible contest for us. I mean, it's like, okay, so now you can have the Camry, and you can have...
and you can have that car over there, and that should take care of it. Okay,
yeah, I think there's like 4 cars, I think, that I don't own in the service, and I own all the tracks, so this is a bad contest for me.
But anyways, each time that you run your iAnalyze logo, and of course the primary position, that's key, because you have the primary and the secondary sponsor. You want to use this in the primary. But each time that you run it, that you you will get 1 entry. Well, I sounded like a broken clock there. It's like blah, and done. But you'll get 1 entry into the grand prize drawing. Excuse me. So, for example, if you run the logo 200 times, you will get 200 entries. But you must run it in at least 10 official races in Season 4 and 5 official races in Week 13. Now, in Week 13, back up. iAnalyze Racing. I saw the word racing and the word I, or the letter I, and I got confused.
Yep.
But iAnalyze Racing will sponsor 2 series, 1 oval, and 1 road. To win the grand prize, iRacing member must have run the iAnalyze Racing logo 10 times over the course of the Season 4, as I already mentioned. You have to do that. Then 5 races in at least 1 of the iAnalyze Week 13 series, which is coming up at the end of Week 4. Or Week 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep. There's just there is way too many numbers in this story. Numbers, eyes, and the word racing, and you're just lost.
I'm confused. But it's coming up at the end of Season 4 is what I meant to say. And of those qualified iRacers, 1 grand prize winner will be rewarded, as I said, enough iRacing credits to join the 100% Club, which for me would be like $8.95. Another 10 qualified iRacers will be chosen to win, and this is kind of the cool part, not that the other part isn't, but they will be chosen to win a 1-year subscription to the iAnalyze Racing program. So like I said earlier, it's subscription-based, kind of like iRacing. I think they have different packages. Couldn't tell you what they are because I haven't looked at them, but I know that would be really cool to have 1 year for free. The other thing is that you will also earn a coupon for 50% off iAnalyze Racing. So anyone running the logo in the primary position 10 times gets a coupon for 5% off. Must have run it at least once.
Yeah, it's actually. I was going to say it's cool the way that they've arranged it out, where it's you have the chance to win based on your participation. And then even if you're not winning, then you have, based on not precipitation, based on the amount, based on how much you rain.
Down here. See, you're not even reading the thing and you're messing up.
Based on participation, then you have a chance to win coupons in order to actually get a deal on it as well. So it basically, you can't lose by, by running the sponsor as your primary, and actually you get something out of the deal either way. So
yeah, and it gets better. So not only if you run the logo for 10 races and you get the 5% off, if you run the logo in the primary position, all this is in the primary position, just can remember that, 30 times, then you get a 10% off. If you do it 60 times, you get 20% off. 125 times, 30% off. 250 times, you get 40%, and anything larger than 250, I believe, is 50% coupon. to the iAnalyze program.
250 times. That's a lot of racing, man.
Yeah, but that's some sweet stuff. I'm sure somebody out there could do it. But man, in a season though, that's like 3 months.
Hmm.
So, anyways, that's a pretty neat promotion. There's a lot of stuff going on, as you kind of figured, but it's pretty cool. And I've heard a lot of good things about the program as well. I don't own it because, well, I don't race much right now, so it would. I don't mean this in a bad way, but it would kind of be a waste of money because I wouldn't be able to really use it at this point.
And I don't understand anything. I just go to my team and say, "Hey, can I have a setup, please?"
Hey.
It's like, are you being consistent on your laps? I don't know. I didn't crash, so I guess I'm doing okay. That's my benchmark.
Sounds good. So, what's the new series that involves our team?
Well, that is a pretty cool series because it's an official. Now, make sure I get my facts straight here. It is an official iRacing league, meaning like it's sanctioned by iRacing itself, but it's an IndyCar league that actually includes actual IndyCar drivers, as in the people who actually race on your television in the actual Verizon IndyCar series. But not just them. It's actually also people from the service I think they had to go through like some sort of Illuminati trials in order to actually make it into the series or something. I don't know what the selection process was, but I'm guessing that they wanted some people who were not going to go out there and be jerks on the track because, well, they're going to be out there with actual race car drivers who are using this service or this series as a way to kind of keep their craft sharp in the off season between the off season. The IndyCar is fairly long. It's probably one of the longer ones actually. Between F1 has a shorter off season, NASCAR has a shorter off season. So these guys want to do something in order to keep going. So the weekly league, which is named the 16th Street Racing League, which I'm guessing would sound familiar to other people because I'm just guessing, this is a continuation of the previous 16th Street Racing League, because there was a league that actually was running under that name, but not necessarily in this exact capacity.
And it's also a fun fact for those of you that may not know. The name of the league, 16th Street, comes from a very important street that happens to be connected to a very important racetrack. Do you know what that racetrack is, Trevor?
That is Indianapolis Motor Speedway, of course.
Correct. You passed the test.
Aw, that is
and
awesome.
Get
nothing. This series debuted actually this past week, all races. And here's another cool thing. You see, it's because it's an actual amalgamation between iRacing, IndyCar. The races themselves will actually be broadcast and streamed live at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the days that they are happening. We'll get to that in a minute. And that's actually going to be broadcast on IndyCar.com. So we actually now have on NASCAR.com, we have things to do with our official NASCAR series, and now we have things on IndyCar.com about the official IndyCar series, which is really dang cool. And as they mentioned, complete with commentators and race stewards. So professionals that will be racing in this series include Verizon IndyCar Series drivers Will Power, Simon Pagenaud, Sage Karam, and Sebastian Saavedra. And I bet you Chad was waiting for me to stumble all over those names, but I actually watch IndyCar, so I know how to pronounce these guys' names.
Well, I'm surprised you made it past Will Power.
It is the coolest name in all of racing.
Oh, yes.
But let's see. Actually, there was a quote from Pagenaud who said, "IndyCar is quite a long off-season." Huh, well, way to copy me there, Simon. And you have to find ways to stay sharp.
Wow, I'm thinking somebody copied this quote.
I'm just saying that's what I knew. I'm just going on my own knowledge, man.
I don't know. It looks kind of fishy to me.
He keeps going, saying, iRacing is a great way to do that. It's amazing how detailed the cars and tracks are on the sim. I'm looking forward to running some races in the 16th Street Racing League during the winter months. I'm sure there will be a lot of healthy competition amongst the drivers. The competition is scheduled for, as I mentioned we would get to, it is a 11-event schedule. And it includes, and let's see, the races are, I believe, on what, the Tuesday nights? Yes.
Yes.
Tuesday nights. 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And they were traveling to Barber Motorsports Park, Iowa Speedway. This is in order. Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Is that actually the name of that place? Sports car? Yeah, it is too. The Milwaukee Mile, which is an awesome track on with these cars. I always love that track. Road America, well, you know that. Pocono Raceway, Sonoma Raceway, Texas Motor Speedway, Watkins Glen International, and Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which it looks like they're actually doing a full Indianapolis experience with qualifications happening one weekend and then, or one week and then the actual race the next week. So, this is it's another one of those cool things. It's another amalgamation between real world racing and sim racing. We've talked about it a bunch anytime they come up with these sorts of deals where they're just getting closer and closer to the racing that they are emulating. And here we are, the iRacing league is giving a chance for iRacers, virtual race car drivers, to race alongside actual race car drivers, which is really freaking cool, including who might be they see if they actually tune in on IndyCar.com.
You're going to drive that point home, aren't you?
I was just gonna say it's cool, but if
How
they
much
want,
are you being paid to say that?
if they wanted to stream, watch that streamed race, they might see a familiar face.
On
Car.
IndyCar Duck. Well, you can't see his face. Face car. What's a face car? Is it like Facebook?
It's like that, but it doesn't suck.
Oh, okay. Well, there's somebody that is kind of cool in our book, anyways, who is pretty privileged to go join those fellers and race. And for the record, one of the tracks that Trevor left off of his schedule rating was Phoenix.
Oh, did I miss that?
And that was the reason why is because that was the very first race, which they happened to do this past Tuesday. So that race is already done. The next one is Barber, as Trevor mentioned. And it was really neat and I'm going to get to the person here in a minute, so don't worry. But it was really neat to go on. I didn't get to watch every single lap, but I did hear every single lap because I was in the garage doing some things, and I had my phone kind of sitting off to the side so I could hear the whole race. Occasionally, I'd walk over and watch it and check on things and everything like that. But they had apparently a small glitch with cautions were supposed to be turned on, and for some reason they were turned off, and somehow they all had unlimited tows. Both of which were not supposed to happen.
Free for all.
Yeah, is basically what it ended up being. But there were a few wrecks, I think, from what I saw. Some of them, I think, were off the track, and maybe they wouldn't have triggered a caution anyways. But for the most part, it's 150 laps at Phoenix, and for what parts of it that I saw, it looked to be some, excuse me, it looked to be some really good racing. I mean, because let's face it, Phoenix is small, and in my experiences, not so much in the IndyCar, but just at Phoenix in general, it's never been the most clean of tracks when it comes to racing. I have had some good races there, but a lot of them had been a little crazy. And this one had its moments where some people would spin and wreck and whatever. But it looked like a lot of fun. Watching it, it made me want to be out there doing it, not so much because I want to be a part of the series, but just the combination looked really fun to participate in. But anyways, the race went really well, and it is archived, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, IndyCar archived it on their channel.
Cool. For
YouTube. And also IndyCar favored one of my tweets, so I felt pretty happy about that.
Ooh, you're special now.
Yeah, I know. Big time. I'm rich and famous. So anyways, the series kind of got kicked off with a bang, and I mean that in a good way. And I think that it's going to turn out to be something that's really neat. It'll be kind of cool to see the next one on the road course, especially because one driver in particular is really good at road racing. Not that he's bad at oval racing, but he's definitely better at road racing at the moment, and I look forward to seeing how the one and only and the person who makes our team directly a part of this.
You are drawing this out way too long. Have you forgotten his name? Are you
No,
stalling for time, sir?
no, I'm building it up. But I was telling the story about Phoenix because you completely skipped it. At least I didn't skip Phoenix.
I was talking
And
about
that
upcoming
is,
tracks.
and that is Dean Mole, who we've talked about previously on the show. And are going to talk about more actually tonight on the show. It's kind of the Dean Mole Center here today. But anyways, he is a part of the series and is going to be out there racing. And like I said, he's a little bit more of a road guy, so I think he'll do really, really well on the road courses. No pressure, or anything. But and it's not that he does bad on the ovals, but because he didn't do as good at Phoenix because he didn't really have a setup and he kind of waited too late to throw one together. And then they're wanting a baseline setup apparently. This is all coming. I'm just kind of telling you what he told us. So, anyways, but Dean finished. Oh, I think he finished 26th, if I'm not mistaken. Which doesn't sound great, but quite honestly, with not really having a setup and kind of throwing everything together at the last minute, and then racing, I don't know, against real professionals, I don't think that's too bad.
Absolutely. So good luck to Dean in that series. I'm sure he's going to do well. As we mentioned, he's also participating in the IndyCar Winter Car Series or Winter Car Series.
Car.
What the heck is going on?
This is a Halloween edition of our show. Spooky things are happening.
the Indy Series Winter Car. But he's also participating in that winter series as well as I am, and as we mentioned, he's actually doing fairly well in there as well. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think actually that running that series might be how he got his invite, if I'm not mistaken, because he's been running really well, as you said in that series. But I don't know. He told us the story kind of how it all came together, and I'm trying to remember. I think that might be how he came.
I was going to say I'm running pretty good in that series. I never got an invite. I mean, I'm like doing well in Division 8.
Well. But anyways, this is for several reasons a very cool series. Obviously, the most important one being, like Trevor mentioned earlier, just the fact that there's we've had the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze series, which is NASCAR sanctioned, online. And now we kind of have an IndyCar series, that's sanctioned online. And even though it's a league, it's still official. And it's like, this is big. They're streaming it on IndyCar.com. And there, I'm going to help Trevor support IndyCar.com. That's huge. Anybody that's an IndyCar fan and doesn't know that iRacing exists can go to IndyCar.com now, see, hey, there's some kind of race. What's this all about? And curiosity, click on the thing. And who knows, it might be a new member for iRacing, but even if not, it's still cool for them to see what we get to do.
Yep, absolutely. And like I said, the IndyCar fans, they're in the same off season as, the drivers are. So they're looking for information on IndyCar stuff, and they're going to stop by the page and find out, anything happened with team movements and stuff. They're going to keep up with it. And then they're going to say, oh, wait, here's some racing. Okay. And there you go. It's one of those mutually beneficial promotional things, which I really like.
Oh, yes. So, like Trevor said, good luck to Dean and to all the drivers. And I look forward to watching it. Heck, if I can even, work out with one of my schedule, I might even go over there and spot for Dean one day and kind of watch the race firsthand.
That would be pretty cool.
Because I'm sure that he would love to have somebody help.
I know sometimes when you're in an IndyCar and you need to make crew chief type decisions that sometimes you need a second ear that can see everything going on so you don't make poor decisions. But we'll get to that later.
That's story time with Trevor.
Spoiler alert. Anyway, so that is the 16th 16th Street Racing League. And hopefully that's going to be a great promotion for both iRacing and IndyCar and anybody involved. So let's see. in this Rubik's Cube, let's see. Where should we go to next, Mr. Chad? You've got the actual guidebook in that translates it. I think he actually has what when you used to buy Transformers when you were a kid, and that you had that little red piece of see-through stuff that you used to put on the back so you could see the stats of the Transformers. I think he has one of those that he puts on his computer screen and actually maps out where we're going in the show next. So yeah.
That's probably true. I think that there's two things that we need to mention, and they're both kind of together. But number one is I think we should fly to Australia. What do you think?
Fly to Australia. Well,
it's kind of nice. It's just now becoming summer there, so I think it's a nice time to go down.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, when I drove into work this morning, my car dash said 1 degree, which is, just above 32 for you American folks. And it's like, oh, right, winter, that's coming. Great.
Yeah. So in case you've missed it, last weekend was the real life, so to speak. I always still laugh whenever we say that. But anyways,
I know.
Was the real deal Bathurst 1000, which is a huge, obviously, V8 supercar race that, of course, takes place at Bathurst, hence name, which is Mount Panorama. And now iRacing is doing their version this upcoming weekend. So kind of like the real, how we're always like a week behind, so to speak, and on like the 24 hours of Daytona and Spa and things like that. Well, that's what's going on here. Now, a few interesting things are coming out of this, I guess. Most people don't know, excuse me, that the Bathurst, the real one, is not just a single driver event. They actually use 2 drivers in those races. So for us, this will be a team event, but it is not going to be a part of the Endurance Championship. I guess. I mean, I know it's going to still count for Road Warriors points, but I guess so far as the team stuff goes, it won't really count in that world. And basically, I have not seen a maximum drivers that you can have. I don't know if it's going to be 2 or if it's going to be 4 or 6 or whatever, but I know that you have to have at least 2. I can confirm that.
Well, it is team racing, so.
Yes. So anyways, that of course is this weekend. Now, with the endurance stuff, which again is separate from this race, but with that, they don't do the 4 races in one weekend thing. For all the other individual events, like the Indianapolis 500, for example, in the Road Warrior Series, they have the 4 different time slots that you can race. With the endurance racing, it's just the one 1300 GMT, 8 or 9 a.m., depending on daylight savings time and farmers. But
don't get us started on farmers again.
I know. But this weekend only, but wait, there's more, is a little different because of the fact that this race is kind of not that it's not important in other parts of the world, but it's obviously a big deal in Australia, in particular. And because 1300 GMT in Australia time is like really close to midnight, which means that the majority of the race. This race, by the way, I think is like 162 laps, which is going to take like about 6 hours.
Put that in perspective. That many laps at Mount Panorama. I mean,
yeah, going up and down the mountain.
Man, you should get into. I mean, like if you complete that thing, you should get an award on iRacing. As far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely, they should mail you a trophy. But anyways, so basically, if you do the math, the people in Australia are going to be up really late doing the race, which probably isn't the most smart thing ever. So iRacing said, hey, we'll add in another time slot. So there are actually 2 time slots for this weekend's Bathurst race, and the first one is going to be, in Eastern time zone, actually, I should say. It is going to be at 10 p.m. Eastern, I believe, which is 0200 GMT. And then the next time slot is going to be at the normal time, 1300 GMT on Saturday, which is 9 a.m. Eastern. And this moment for people that don't go by a GMT.
Mm-hmm.
So you get 2 time slots, and that will kind of help the first one that I mentioned, the 0200 one, will kind of help out the Australian people because it'll kind of be the middle of the day instead of like 2 a.m. in the morning. So, anyways, I believe that with our group in particular, we have 4 guys who are interested. And if iRacing will allow us, and that's why we've been trying to confirm this, we're going to just all 4 join forces and do the race together. And if not, then I guess we'll just split 2 and 2. But that'll be myself and Adam Hollick, and then Brenton, whose last name escapes me at this moment, and then Roy Clark as well. And between the 4 of us, I think Adam and I are going to be the guys who are just trying to survive, and probably Roy as well. And Brenton's like the superstar hero, the guy 6 seconds faster than the rest. But so we'll put him in when it's time to win, is what I'm. Is that a good strategy?
It probably would be if I wasn't only catching every second word. It kind of faded out on me a couple times. The audio, portion of the show will actually get the full story.
Oh, yeah.
The video portion, we're dependent on Chad's pretending that I have internet situation. But it sounded like you said there was somebody who was 6 seconds faster than everybody else, so they're going to put them in when it's time to win.
Yes. Anyways, so that's going to be our plan, basically, is to try to attack Bathurst. I'm hoping with the 4 of us on the same team because that's going to be kind of late for us, me and Adam, because Adam and I are in the same time zone, and that's going to be getting late for us. So what my thinking is that if Adam and I start the race and kind of rotate out, each pit stop. Wow. That was
each pit
interesting.
Stop by.
Each pit stop. But every pit stop, if we switch out, and then if Roy and Brenton can finish out the rest of the race, because obviously they're in Australia, so that's going to be like late evening or early evening, I should say, for them, then it would kind of work out great. So we'll see, though, how it goes. But we're going to be driving a Holden Commodore, which I love saying. So that's our attempt at the Bathurst 1000, and good luck to every soul who tries.
Yes, indeed. It shall be a test and a testament to your endurance racing, I guess, at its truest at its truest moment, I guess, is that particular situation. So, yeah. Let's see. So that's Bathurst taken care of. So that's, of course, this weekend, as Chad mentioned. So make sure that if you want to get participating in that, well, I hope you've already been practicing because that's not too far away, and that's a tough track. But so moving right along with the show, one note that I would like to mention is the fact that I think we kind of half joked at it last week, talking with the people in the chat room, but fun races. And, that's right, because we were talking about particular track combinations.
We were talking about Bathurst, and the Cup car.
So anyway, with that being said, let's get the ball rolling again on this, and hopefully organize something in the near future here. I think we're looking at, we don't want to make this a too long of a drawn-out procedure, so hopefully sometime in November is what we're kind of thinking, to do some more fun races with you guys. We've got a lot of new listeners since last time we did it. We've had, obviously a lot of people hanging around from, from the old listeners, so to speak. So, so we want to do some more fun races, and, we want to start opening the door to see what you guys want for combinations as to what you might want to do. So make sure that, we'll go through the normal channels, send us some tweets, send us emails to our feedback address. And when I say, well, I shouldn't have said tweets, because you know what? The group of yahoos that we have sometimes on Twitter are going to cause this into a, hey, let's just make sure that everything gets spammed. Let's stick with emails or our feedback. Yeah.
Unless you're really serious on Twitter and only provide like one suggestion. Yes. And for those of you that are new, the in short about this is we do fun races. They are totally fun, nothing serious. They're short, and you get to race with other listeners of the show and Trevor and myself. So they're pretty fun. We've enjoyed what have we done, 3 thus far?
I think it's been 3.
Or 2.
I don't remember if it's 2 or 3.
I think it's been 3. I think it's 3 that we've done so far on different combinations, and we've had a lot of fun.
Yeah, like I said, like Chad said, it's basically no stress, no nothing. We put a bunch of resets in there. I think we just keep it at infinite.
Yeah,
because the idea is just to just go out there and chat and talk and and have fun and not stress out about stuff. And maybe we might not make it a short track this time for the oval because we did USA last time and with some people who very like a lot of people. It's like, hey, I don't usually oval race, but you know what, that was kind of the idea. And we raced a little bit under caution under that race. So maybe we'll make a bigger track this time.
You know what just came to mind?
What's that?
Of the oval track that we should choose. You're going to hate me, but I think we should do Monza.
That would be fun, we
did it as a bonus round the last time.
That's right. But I think we should... Or when you said you're going to hate this, I thought you were going to say, we should do Oxford. Which is probably my least favorite oval track in the service. So,
Well, we should. Street stocks at Oxford are a lot of fun.
Nothing at Oxford's a lot of fun.
Both free content. I think we should go for it.
So, anyway.
Vote for Oxford. Vote for Oxford.
Anyway, send us
to annoy Trevor.
Send us in your thoughts on what you'd like us to do. And we will arrange some races for you guys to come out and hang out and have some fun. So, just want to put that bug in y'all's ear. That's
wow. Farmers.
Farmers again. Wow, man, farmers come up a lot on a show about simulation racing.
There is the farming simulation.
There is, which I've seen people play and have a hoot with. I'm not one of those people. But anyway,
so speaking of tracks, we do have another favorite track submitted list, if you will. And that actually came in today. So just in time for tonight's show. And we only have one. Trevor was thinking there was more than one, but it's only one. We are still getting a lot of your not favorite tracks. So in case you haven't sent that in just yet, remember to be sending in the tracks that you're not a big fan of. And we'll eventually read those on an upcoming show. But to do the new favorite track game submission, this came from Rob Hope. And he says that his number one favorite track, once again, it just amazes me how this track has been on so many people's list. But his favorite track is Mount Panorama. Of course, we were just talking about Bathurst. So there it is again. And then he kind of explains this, and his explanation is I found amusing. Anyways, he says, it reminds me of a roller coaster.
Well, it does. I mean, all it needs is a bloody loop to...
Because it's true.
It just needs a loop-to-loop in the middle of it, and away you go.
I know. It's true. He says you climb up the mountain straight, the wall slowly closing in on you, over the rise, and the corners start coming one after the other, faster and faster, the walls closer and closer. Then you're at the top. What a pretty sight. I added that in. And then he says the walls back off for a bit so you can breathe in the magical vista of the New South Wales. Then you crest skyline. Excuse me. And everything turns crazy. The walls slam right in next to you, brushing your ears. Out of forest elbow, and it's like emerging from a ghost train. The walls have receded, and you're rewarded with a foot flat to the floor downhill blast. A few more fun turns, then you're back at the bottom, ready to go again. I love that explanation. Yeah,
that is the most descriptive description of Mount Panorama Bathurst that I have ever heard. I think it sounds both amazing, spectacularly beautiful, and terrifying all at the same time. It's awesome.
Yeah, pretty much. And we get to do it for 6 hours this week. Anyways, the rest of his list he did not explain. He just put the list there. His second favorite track is Okayama, the full course circuit. That is a great track. As Trevor, I believe you were the one that had that in your list as well.
That is correct.
Third, no surprise here, is Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps is in his list. Fourth is the Lime Rock, and he specifically says the chicane.
Which he's crazy. Because because that chicane is the most evilest thing ever.
It does look pretty evil if you watch it. Like when I watched your broadcast race from a couple weeks ago, when those cars you were watching the Monza race, the wow,
MX-5
weird show. Yes, those cars going around that was very interesting. Like everybody, it looked like they were just all jumping it.
I know. Well, that's the thing. I mean, you get up at the top of the hill and you are unstable as it is. And then, like I said on the broadcast, I mean, like, not only is your car wanting to go crazy on you at the top of the crest of that hill anyway, now you expect it to turn right.
Yeah, suddenly. And then back to the left. And then his final track that he has on his favorite list is Mazda Race Laguna Seca, which showed up on quite a few people's list.
Yep. But I like the thing I like most about Rob's email was the fact that, you know, he has this multi-sentence description of Mount Panorama and then just 4 more tracks.
Yeah. Like, well, here you go. I guess if you want 4 more, I'll just toss them in. So, that is the latest and greatest favorite track. Answer, submission, post.
Thingy.
My Bob.
So, anyway, I'd say that we go into our, excuse me, our feel-good story here. Just want to describe a little bit about that, and then we'll get into our experiences and finish off with our feedback from Story Time with Trevor.
Go for it.
A cool thing happened on the iRacing forums here this past I guess it's only been 6 days, so the past week here. Mm-hmm. Cool in the fact the way that the community reacted about it. And we do talk about the community a lot, and some of the bad, some of the good, and you know, we have been critical on occasion about some things that go bad in there, and we've been very praising on things that, you know, happen that are good, people being helpful, people, you know, helping ease people into the iRacing experience. Well, this story is more about the human element of it all, and I'm not going to read the forum post itself because it's rather lengthy, and I will put a link in the show notes so you guys can make sure you go check it out. But the gist of it basically is that James Petty, who's he goes by Jamie, is an iRacing member, and he actually does a lot of painting of cars, and he's a very respected member of the community, and very well liked in in amongst other iRacers, and with people, you know, that he's helped out with racing and stuff. And excuse me. So apparently he's been going through some challenges lately when it comes to some medical issues that he's going through, which is causing some financial issues. So his wife actually got onto his account, didn't race, just there's nothing untowards going there, but actually used his forum account and posted, basically explaining the situation and just asking for help, and using GoFundMe, which is a service that allows people to create fundraising accounts in order to help things out, if they're in need. And the community just stepped up, and the amount of praise that Jamie got in here about everything he's done for people and how people appreciate everything that's happened is just been, it was just heartwarming to see the outpouring of everybody telling their stories about how much he's helped them with basically on the track and going out and actually helping them paint cars and stuff. So through that effort, and they're asking for money to help pay with his medical bills. He's been affected by cancer and is going through treatments, and it's causing problems, obviously, with working and some chronic pain. So they're asking for help to make ends meet and to help with medical bills. And so far, through his GoFundMe account, which I have to imagine is almost 100% iRacers, promoting or donating to this, as opposed, with, obviously some friends and family as well. But I'd imagine this is mostly iRacers out there. And they've raised over $10,000 to help Jamie out. So that's just awesome. And I wanted to mention this on the show just to, to kind of, let you guys know about it because it's a great story. I mean, I feel bad for Jamie. I don't think any of us out there, I swear, in this day and age have not been affected in some way or another, by somebody with severe medical issues, and specifically cancer. So, I hope Jamie gets better soon. But it's just been great to watch everybody just step up to help out Jamie with, in his time of need. You could kind of tell from the tone of the email that he, his wife was not, she didn't want to do this, but had, as she put it, ran out of options and was just kind of reaching out because she knew that Jamie was such an important part, member of the iRacing community. So over $10,000 have been raised to help them out, and well done, people. Like, that's great. Like, I love when people step up to help people when they really, really need it. So I'll put a link in the show notes to the forum post so you can read some of those good stories. I'll also put a link to his GoFundMe page in the show notes as well if you want to go and donate to help out. But I just want to make sure that you guys were aware of that because, it's great to see, what this community has done. We've talked about the community a lot in the last little bit, and this is just another, awesome example of how you guys step up when, when one of us is in need kind of thing. So well done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's amazing. In 6 days, over $10,000 raised. I mean, that's unbelievable. And like Trevor said, I mean, that's got to be mostly iRacing members. So that, we're a little hard on the community sometimes, but man, when something like this happens, that's just, there's no way that cannot bring a smile to your face and you just sit there and pat each other on the back because that is definitely a blessing for them. So, I mean, thoughts and prayers go out to Jamie and his wife, Wendy, and hopefully, he can make a full recovery.
Yep, absolutely. So our thoughts are with you, Jamie. So moving on back to some on-the-track action. We had some experiences over the last little bit here. My experiences are preparing for, we've got 54 minutes till I'm supposed to be on the track. I mean, I'm doing the show from, the garage of my my IndyCar. I'm in Montreal now, so at least I'm in my own country this time. But
the Grand Prix of Trevor.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, it's technically my home Grand Prix because we don't hit, the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park in the series, so it's the only time we stop by Canada is this one. So even though it is thousands, a couple thousand miles away from me, it's technically my home Grand Prix. So, I guess I sort of feel like Danny Kvyat there, where the Russian Grand Prix was his, home Grand Prix, even though he grew up like 3,000 miles from the track. So, but Russia's really big, and so is Canada. But anyway, so I will start with my experiences are, as is typical. I did my IndyCar race, and that's the only race I actually did, and then practicing for this week's race. So we were at Iowa, and at the behest of Mr. Roy, who had been badgering me to be more confident out there on the track and actually try to do well in these series rather than just try to survive, I actually went out and qualified. So that was, that was pretty cool. The fact that I actually went and, qualified. And it was weird because at the very beginning of qualifying, I looked out and I was qualified second for a long time. And it's like, oh dear, what have I done? It's like, well, because I was scared, but then it's like, well, all right, well, I guess my time is pretty comparable, to the other guys. So I guess maybe this wasn't such a bad idea. In the end, I ended up qualifying in 5th position. Iowa is pretty tricky because it's a pretty short track.
Nice job.
Yeah, I qualified 5th. I mean, it's the bottom split, but that does not matter.
Yeah, forget all that. Leave that out.
So, and ended up having a, excuse me, ended up having a, a fairly decent race, and actually was competitive in where I was. Like, I was kind of hanging around between the 5th position and like 12th for most of the race. We had 25 cars start the race. So, just kind of hanging out, not quite mid-pack, but a little bit ahead of mid-pack, which was pretty cool. And there were, it was funny because I was expecting mayhem on that race, but there really wasn't for the first few laps. So we ran a bunch of laps, I mean, a bunch, like more than one, which is what I was kind of expecting. And, ended up running some green flag laps at the beginning. It's like, okay, well, maybe this is going to be different than I thought, because because it's such a short track and these cars are so aerosensitive, like it is super easy to get the the air chopped off your nose, and all of a sudden you get tight out of the corner and boom, you're in the wall, or you're coming out and you even look at the apron. You don't even have to touch it. You just have to kind of like make casual eye contact with the apron and you're around on that track. So it is a challenging track. So I was expecting kind of mayhem, and there wasn't, which I was kind of surprised at. And then we had a caution. I can't remember when it was. And then there was a lot of cautions. It was a 160-lap race to be, in total. In the end, we ended up running 70 of them under caution. So it started off good, then kind of all fell apart. Another thing that was kind of cool about it was the fact that the idea of doing the Thursday night races was the fact that we do the live record of the show, and then I jump in, and then people will be able to jump from the Twitch channel from watching the show to over watching the race. However, when I jumped in the race, I realized that apparently my instructions weren't quite clear on, hey, okay, this is going to be a double header for you guys who like the show, and a bunch of people who are watching the show jumped in the race. So like these bottom split Thursday night races in the winter series are turning into the iRacing Today radio show invitational, I swear, because each week there's more and more listeners in there, because I keep looking around. It's like, oh, okay, well, here we go. We've got James in there who's been racing with me, and Roby was in there, and Scott was in there, Feldhausen. It was, and there was another guy in there. I can't remember his name. Chris Brown was also in there as well. And so that was really cool. I mean, it is really neat for me to just jump in there, and then all of a sudden, we've mentioned how, cool it is to have Race with Racers. And now, like, every Thursday night, it seems to be like I've just got this group that comes with me at that bottom split. It's like, all right, let's take our sub 1,000 I ratings and let's do this and end up in a room together kind of thing. So after we had a rash of cautions, I kept thinking, I forgot to put up, again, idiot Trevor, forgot to put up my Z1 dashboard, so I didn't have my fuel calculation in there. And I kept thinking, I don't know, because I didn't know what a full fuel run was. And of course, with all the caution laps, it's really hard to judge anyway. So it was like, okay, I'm not going to, I just kept basically doing, I'm going to do what the leaders do. I'm going to do what the leaders do. I'm going to do what the leaders do, because I'm sitting 5th, 6th, 7th position kind of thing. It's like, okay, they're not going in. Okay, I'm fine. They're not going in. All right, I'm going to stay out. And then eventually it's like, eventually we're going to run out of cars and stop having cautions because there's not going to be anything for anybody to run into. So I kept getting nervous because I didn't want to be the guy who didn't already come in for fuel and then have to pit under green, and then all of a sudden there's no more cautions. So it was like, okay. Eventually, I can't remember which caution it was, but it's like, all right, I'm going in. It's like, I'm going to go in. I'm going to get fuel. So I fueled up, ended up kind of back in the pack a little bit. I don't remember how far back I fell. And then, we had some more cautions, and I'm racing. It's like, I don't know if I'm good on fuel. And I'm kind of, and that was like the last half of that race was me looking at my, my F4 and saying, and cursing myself up for not putting up the Z1 dashboard before I started the bloody race, and looking, it's like, okay, I'm close. I'm close, a little bit more caution, and, every caution, boom, right to, engine map 8 and high gear and barely getting on the throttle and, doing all the fuel saving stuff that Andy taught me. So, and I'm saving. It's like, okay. And then we had a caution near the end. I can't remember how many laps it was. It wasn't, just a handful of laps left. It's like, I am real close, but because IndyCar does the single file restarts without people at, the lappers going to the back, because there was only 15 cars on the lead lap. No, actually, no, there was only like 10 at that point in time, 10 or 11 cars on the lead lap. It's like, if this was a normal circumstance, I'd totally go in, because I was like 6th, 7th, something like that at that time. But because I'll be back behind all the lap cars, and it's, you know, because it's such a challenging car to drive, your passing isn't guaranteed, I guess. You know, and it's like I don't want to be back there, you know. So I didn't go out, you know, didn't go in, stayed out, tried to save my fuel. It's like I'm going to be close, I'm going to be close, I'm going to be close. And the reason why I made the decision I did was, it's like, you know what? I'm sitting here 5th, 6th, wherever it was. It's like the worst that's going to happen is I'll fall back to like 10th, because, you know, I'll run out of fuel on the last couple laps. I can't fall that much farther back, because it was, you know, then it was people back 3, 4 and more laps down. So I made the gamble, I guess it was, and ended up running out of gas on the last lap. And I ended up having enough to coast around, so I actually took the checkered flag without power. So I finished a lap down, but ended up finishing in 9th position, which is my first top 10 in the Winter Series. So the string of good finishes continues. You know, some 12ths, 2 12ths, a 9th, and a 16th. So far have been my finishes so far. So you know what, I will gladly take that. Like I said, it was a gamble with some calculation in there. I knew, like I said, the worst that was going to happen, you know, ended up in 10th, and I was okay with that. So, and ended up in 9th as it was. So that put me up to a tie at the time for first place in the Division 8 championship, and then by the end of the week I was down to 5th after everybody had done all the races. So currently, before we do tonight's race, I am sitting in 6th position, and I am 12 points off of the, no, not 12, sorry, 18 points off of the lead right now, with only 2 races in the books for the week so far out of the 12. So still in good shape for my goal of winning this championship, and hopefully, you know, I'll have a good race at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve this evening and continue on that trend. So that was my race from last week. I will say no more on the subject right now, because, well, you know, I've got 45 minutes, and if I keep babbling, well, you know, I'll never get on the track. You know?
That's right. You got to keep those finishes going.
Absolutely.
So I just want to make sure I didn't miss this. You didn't actually lose any spots when you ran out of gas?
I did. I ended up losing, let's see, I think I was running 6th at the time, so I think I lost 3 positions. So,
well, that stinks.
Like I said, it was I think I would have finished. I think I would have finished 6th. I think is what it would have ended up if I hadn't run out of fuel. But and it's funny, like I'm coming up on the last lap. It's like, okay, and I push it over to the F4 key and I look at it, and as I'm about to cross the start finish line, it says 0.1 gallons. It's like, uh-oh.
That not good.
I don't think I'm gonna make it.
Well, congrats on 9th, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I was, like I said, I'm really, really enjoying this series. Like, it is so much fun. And I wanted to actually, one last thing before I step off from here is I just wanted to apparently Nim has just confirmed that I was in 6th and finished 9th. I don't know why Nim knows that, but but thank you, fact checker, Mr. Cross. He's chief steward and chief statistician apparently as well. Before I step off here,
100 feet from finishing.
I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the forum. The iRacing, the IndyCar forum out there. They actually do a post for each week of the Winter Series, and there are several really helpful guys that go in there and give baseline setups and are answering questions and being really helpful. There's one person in particular who has been really helpful to me this week by the name of Jussi Nieminen. I hope I pronounced that right. He's from Finland, so I apologize, but I basically asked, you know, a couple of questions about setting stuff up, and he came back with this awesome explanation as to, you know, breaking down corners. If your car, you know, understeers in this type of corner, then this is what you need to do. And if you know, like, just some really detailed and excellent information for, you know, because I don't need to know the whole car. You know, I need to know what are the couple things? Give me a baseline, and then if I'm feeling I'm loose on corner exit or tight on corner entry or whatever, give me the couple things I need to tweak. And that's exactly what he provided me in this really good post. So I just wanted to tell you guys, if you are trying out the IndyCar like I am, there are some really good people out there that are willing to help you out over in the IndyCar forum and give you kind of a push in the right direction. And there's some great information to help you understand these cars a little better. So just want to mention that as well.
Cool.
So
my only racing experience came in the form of the Block Pain Endurance Series. For the record, I will confirm before I go into the road course story that I am 6 points ahead in the Power Series, which we didn't race last week. So now we're going into Phoenix this weekend. So that is official now. It wasn't official last week. I was just doing my own math. So that's good. Anyways, so back to the Endurance Series. Obviously, because of the way the Monza race got kicked to week 5, I think, or the 5th race anyways, not week 5. But this past weekend was the official first race in that Block Pain Endurance Series. And myself and Dean Mull are on a team, and along with 2 other guys, and then there's another team that we have that has 4 people on it. And anyway, so Dean and I were kind of the guys that could run this past weekend, and it was at Road Atlanta. And our car of choice is the BMW, because we just feel like it's a better car overall at most tracks, and it's one that all of us are very familiar with. And I was really big on picking it because I've gotten really comfortable in it. So anyways, Dean and I did it, and originally we were going to go for the Saturday morning race, but that just wasn't going to work with what I had going on Saturday. So Dean was like, well, I can run the Sunday, what was our time? Sunday afternoon race. And I was like, oh yeah, that'll work great. So Dean and I did that. 2 things that I want to point out. Number one is the fact that the race for Dean and I started off good and then just got better as we went.
Sweet.
It was a 3-hour race, as all of them are in this series. And, it's kind of hard to, excuse me, it's a little bit harder for me, I think, and maybe even for some of the other people on our team, because what you have to do in this series to try to shoot for the top 40, which I still don't know that we're going to make that, but it's a goal that we're trying. And so because of that, we have to put in our highest iRating driver. Well, in the case of me and Dean, that's Dean on the road course iRating. I don't remember what his is, but it's quite a few points higher than mine. And so anyways, I was a little leery about doing it like this because just for me personally, because I think the highest strength of field in a road course race I've ever been in was like 2,000 or something like that, which is pretty high, but it's also not as high as some of the rooms like Dean's been in, which are a little bit higher. And so the reason why it makes me nervous is because I don't want to be the guy who, even though I consider myself pretty good at road racing, I don't want to be the guy who like loses all the spots because everybody on the racetrack is better than me. So I guess the point is that I put a little bit more pressure on myself to just, go out there and try to whoop tush.
Whoop tush.
Yeah. So Dean started for us, obviously because of the iRating, and he qualified the car in 20th because the qualifying is attached to the race sessions. And 20th, it was basically in the middle of the field. I think we had 38 cars, if I'm not mistaken, in our field. So it was basically in the middle. And I think a few cars started from the pits, perhaps. I'm not sure, though. But so he worked his way, fast towards the top 10. The first few laps, he was very calm and patient, but yet at the same time, he was kind of attacking and managed to pass a few cars. And it did not take very long until we were in the top 10. And we kind of stayed on the low end of the top 10. And then and Dean did a good job. And I was spotting, obviously. Well, I wasn't really like officially spotting, but I was just kind of helping with certain things and watching. And the second thing that I want to point out that to me was the coolest part of the whole afternoon in the standpoint of the race, was the fact that it was the first race that I have literally seen the track rubber up with this new dynamic track.
Cool.
And when I say that, I mean it really rubbered up. By the time the race was over with, which again, it was 3 hours, even at the halfway point, an hour and a half into it, um, that track was really dark in pretty much every turn, especially the heavy braking ones. And it was cool because when I was watching Dean at the very beginning of the race had just started, it was a little dark in certain areas, but it was pretty light, throughout most of the racetrack. And by the time that I got on the racetrack, which was like an hour and 20 some minutes into the race, maybe Nim can look that up. I, I, um, Man, it was really dark in a lot of areas on the racetrack, and that was exciting to see. Even if it didn't affect the car or whatever, it was cool to at least see the track changing,
Right.
with the color of the track at least. So that kind of made me happy, because in the oval races I've been in, and maybe they're just not long enough, or maybe the settings that we're using aren't right to make it work right. But whatever the case is, I just haven't really seen it darken up. And that's what I want to see. I want to see that happen. So it was neat to do that, or to see that rather, at Road Atlanta. And a bonus thing that I'll toss in is that Road Atlanta is a lot of fun. So Trevor, you need to stop hating.
See, I can't even tell you why I hate that track. I just know the one time the few times I went out and tried to figure out the track, it challenged me beyond my ability. So
Yeah.
like a spoiled child, I just said, "This is stupid," and walked away.
Oh, that's great. So, but I kind of fell in love with the combination with the BMW and Road Atlanta. And I actually practiced on Friday night. Obviously, they had the 10-hour Le Mans race there on Saturday, and I had actually originally said I would race that until I kind of just felt like my schedule would be too much, and it was. I wouldn't have been able to race, but in the Le Mans race. But wow, did I ever want to after racing or practicing the BMW on Friday night for the Sunday race. Man, I wanted to be there on Saturday because it was so much fun. Anyways, that was a side rant. But Dean's first stint went really well. Like I said, he started 20th. He worked his way up into the top 10. And I think when I took over, we were like 7th, maybe. And at that point, I came back on the racetrack, and I told Dean it was going to take me a couple laps to kind of get in rhythm and everything. And our car was 100% clean. Dean had one slight off, which it was like literally like the left front tire went off the track and then it came back on. And I think it gave us like 9 seconds of repairs because he kind of hit the curve
Right.
when he came back on or something weird. And somehow that like gave us 9 seconds of damage, which we fixed 3 seconds of which when we did our first pit stop and our driver swap. So, it was basically a completely clean car. And it handled well when I got in it, except after I ran a couple laps, it felt like it got tighter. And I even told him, I was like, man, this thing is tight. And you guys know I can't drive a tight race car. So I went in and started playing with all the in-car driver adjustments and like dropped them all down to like off. I like turned off traction control, turned off this, turned off that, trying to just make the car loose because I was doing everything I could think of to free it up while I was on the racetrack. And like I said, I came out, I think I was in 7th when that's where he left it to me. And I dropped a few spots. And I actually went back to 10th. And a part of me was kind of beating myself up because I was like, great, I'm the weak link here and I can't compete with some of these people. And then the other part of me was like, well, the car's tight. I got to figure out how to drive it, and I'm still getting my rhythm going. And once I got back into 10th, I actually got my rhythm and started to do a little bit better. My lap times improved. I got a little bit more consistent, started gaining on the guys that had just passed me and had kind of driven away a little bit. And right about the time that happened, they all decided to crash. So
They all?
I had to play dodge car because there were cars everywhere. They didn't all crash at one time. It was over the span of like a couple laps. But I really did had some close calls. One car claimed I hit, so I got a 2X, even though we didn't get any damage for it. But I had to dodge quite a few there. And eventually, after I kind of calmed down from that, settled back into a rhythm and did well. I would not say that I did great, but I did well. And when I came into pit to give the car back to Dean to finish out the race, I think I was in 5th at that point, or 6th.
Nice.
And then Dean took over, and the dude just became like a man on a mission. I've watched Dean drive quite a bit, but I don't think I've ever seen him drive as well as he did in that second stint at Road Atlanta, in the time that I've known him. And the other thing is that when a racetrack is really, really, really rubbered up, apparently that fits Dean's driving style. Because I'm not kidding. He was every lap for the last hour, 20 minutes, he was either tied for the fastest car on the racetrack, the second fastest car on the racetrack, or the first fastest car on the racetrack. Every lap. I mean, it was just boom, boom, boom. And by that time, a couple more people had had issues, but he also caught, passed, drove away from several cars. We got up into 3rd, and that's basically where we thought we were going to finish, was 3rd, because by this point we were so far behind between, him driving originally, me driving, and just the leaders setting such a rapid pace that we were a lap down. But he actually caught 2nd, who was still on the lead lap, passed 2nd, drove away from 2nd, and then caught the leader in the final 20 minutes of the race. And he decided, Dean did, to just ride behind the leader, not really, try to mess his race up or anything. But he wanted to apply pressure, and kind of put it in there. And I had kind of been noticing that the leader was making some little mistakes here and there, missing the curve, or, getting a little loose, or, stuff like that. So I was like, put some pressure on him. You never know. And because we still had to unlap ourselves, but if the front 2 cars had a problem, then we're in the catbird seat. But nothing really happened, and the race just kind of wound down, and we got down to the lap before the white flag, and the leader kind of pulled off to the side going down the front straightaway, and I told Dean, I was like, okay, well, it looks like he's just going to let you go, because, Dean was right behind him for several laps. And so I was like, well, that's just kind of okay, you know what? I don't want you here for the last 2 laps. Just go ahead and go, and I'll just kind of pace myself and win the race.
Right.
And as soon as he moved over and let Dean go, he just stopped. And he pulled off into the sand pit that was over there in turn 1 and just quit and disappeared. And I was like, wait a minute. What?
Did the race end?
Yeah, and I asked Dean, I was like, you're on 2 to go, technically. I mean, obviously it's a time race. And I was like, well, what the heck is the leader doing? And Dean was like, I don't know. And then Dean came around and he got the white flag. And I was like, you're on the white flag, right? And he was like, yeah, I'm on the white flag. And I was like, well, why the heck did he quit? And we could not figure it out. And then the guy that had been in 2nd came around, crossed the line, became the leader. And then Dean came around, crossed, came in 2nd. And I was like, what the heck? So, and then the checker flag came out. We ended up finishing in 2nd. And then I started looking through the standings to figure out what the heck had happened to the guy. And then I figured it out. He had run the race as a single driver and realized that obviously you get disqualified because you have to have a minimum of 2 because it's team racing. And he realized that was going to happen. And instead of just winning the race and then getting disqualified, he just parked it and got disqualified.
No, I was going to say, does he not get disqualified? They're all like, well, you didn't finish all the laps, so maybe you were going to have another guy in there.
No, so that's what happened. He was just running the race by himself, and I guess just decided to park because I guess it wasn't worth, because he knew he wasn't. I mean, he ended up finishing tied for last because he was disqualified. So, But man, there for about 5 minutes, Dean and I didn't know what the heck was going on. But yeah, anyways, that aside, we ended up with second. So it was a awesome, awesome afternoon for us and a perfect start for the endurance series.
Yeah, no kidding, man. That is impressive. Well done to both you and Dean.
Mm-hmm.
Great job.
We can
guys.
drive.
You can drive. You're good drivers.
Yeah. Well, Dean's better than me, but we're good.
I mean, I think that's obvious, but I didn't want to say anything. But yeah.
Oh, I see how it is.
Well, hey,
I see how it is.
We spent what 2.5 years doing this, where you're always the better driver than me. That's undisputed. So now I have somebody to hold over your head because I'm not going to do it. So
yeah, that's true. I'll give you that.
But that's great. So that's man, second in an endurance race. That is impressive, guys. So well done.
I will say though that Roy and I won ours. So nana boo boo. I'm only kidding. Anyway, story time with Trevor.
Yes. So we shall finish out the show with a follow-up on last week's episode that we had. And for those of you who are, again, this is a serial podcast. It's a serialized drama. You have to follow the episodes in order or you won't be able to follow the threads. But
Bob died last year.
Yeah, poor Bob. I mean, don't even get me started on Finnegan. Was that my cat that hung up by my pretend garage? Yes. Okay, anyway. So last week we talked about the protest system and the interesting situation that had occurred where Nim had been watching one of my races and had protested activities that he'd seen happen in that race. And that led us to a discussion about, hey, you never know where, who's watching, what's going to happen. Just because people in the particular race don't protest you does not mean that it's a done deal because, once it's on the internet, it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Anyway, had a great conversation, a lot of fun, and I just wanted to mention that we're getting some great feedback from you guys. We kind of left it with a call to arms to challenging you guys to think a little bit differently about the protest system than maybe you had in the past, to kind of take a proactive approach on helping to form this community. Just mold it a little bit better, to help us become stronger and help it be more inviting to users and more helpful. So, we kind of mentioned, that is like I said, as a call to arms. And it sounds like you guys really enjoyed the conversation. You really took it to heart. We got some great feedback through emails and tweets and all the various methods. And I just wanted to kind of go over a couple of them, and then and then there's another follow up to that as well. I'd like to mention. Jeff McPherson wrote in and said about Nim's letter to Trevor. He says, "I've always protested if I feel that I've been taken out of a race." He says about maybe 5 times. "And I've always let the stewards deal with it, and I've always accepted the decision, even if I didn't agree with it. It's not perfect, but," and this is a key line in his email, "but if no one protests, how can it be?" A fair question. He says, "I've never protested about language or abuse of other drivers. In my experience, you get a minute or two after an incident with people disagreeing, and then you just agree to disagree and shut up," which is what he thinks people should do. And then he says, "Nim's letter certainly got me thinking." Basically, the premise was, sure, this guy is, whoever this person may be causing problems in there, but just because you can turn off voice chat, just because you step away from the situation doesn't mean other people aren't affected by it. And as we mentioned, without, let's say this person actually just doesn't realize that's not how this community works. Without coaching, without being protested and having to go through the system where NIM can actually coach that behavior and maybe make them a proactive member of this community, how are they supposed to know? I mean, like I said, on other services, Call of Duty or whatever, that's actually, I don't know if expected's the right word, but I know I expect it. It's the status quo there. Here, it's not and shouldn't be. So anyway, apparently we got Jeff thinking as well. We're not gonna go through all the feedback we get, but there was Jeff's that we want to go through, and I'm gonna go with Yanni, or that's how I would pronounce that. He says, "Hi, thanks for a great show. Based on the discussion that you had on the show regarding the protests, I actually raised a protest, his first he mentioned, that I wouldn't have done before." Yeah, he says, "This was in a B-Series race on Charlotte this week. We were driving behind the pace car, and just before the green flag, the driver holding the top position just drove from the inside lane to the outside lane and stopped. All cars in the outside lane piled up in a nice crash." See, now that's something that is, seems, I obviously wasn't there, but it was, obviously it seems intentional based on the way he describes it.
Yeah.
He says, "I was not so happy, but previously I would have just thought that in the next race I'll not have the same genius driving with me. Your show encouraged me to file a protest to save someone else's race, even if mine was ruined." So that was kind of I guess that was a main crux of what we were talking about last week. A lot of times we just sit there and go, you know what? Okay, that sucked, whatever, move on. But that behavior hasn't been addressed, and now he's going to go do it to somebody else. So, so that's one of those things where that's what he should have done. Somebody should have protested it because, again, the iRacing itself and NIM in particular, they're obviously not watching all the races. That's just not, well, it's not is it not even reasonable. It's just, well, that's insane. It's impossible. But without us going out there and policing these activities, they're just going to do it to somebody else. And like he said, normally he would have said, you know what, okay, that sucked. I'll probably never see that guy again. Boom, done. Or at the very least put him in his blacklist or something so that he'd know, would try to avoid that person. But that doesn't help. Policing the community doesn't help other drivers avoid that same fate. This does, because now coaching can be done or action can be taken or whatever it may be. So this is what we were asking for. This is what we were kind of calling to you as our listener base, because we know, from experience and interacting with you guys, we've got, it sounds like bragging, but realistically, we've got some of the best, the racers with the best attitudes we have as our listener base. You guys have proven it time and time again. You guys are awesome. So if us as as our own small knit little community with the attitude and behaviors that we have can go out there and try to make the community as a whole better, well then I think that's something that we should participate in. That's something that we should help. Chad and I do this show to help the community, to have some fun as a hobby. So now we're putting it on to you guys. Maybe you guys should do some work too. But you get my meaning. And it sounds, like I said, we got more feedback than just that. There's just a couple that I just wanted to point out. And that's great, because that's exactly what we wanted to see from you guys, and I'm glad you guys really enjoyed that conversation. Now, the side note to this is the fact that not only, were you guys listening and having a good time, well, a certain Mr. Nim Cross also listened to that episode. As I mentioned, we had talked about when I mentioned this whole situation, I had cleared it with Nim that he was okay with me sharing the information, because I just wanted to make sure that he was okay with it. So he was aware of the show, so he actually listened to the episode, and even though I gave him a timestamp for the particular time when the important stuff was, he listened to the whole show. So good on you, Nim. But anyway. Oh
no, I take back what I said.
No, wait. Oh, you guys said that. Oh dear. Anyway. So he came back with some feedback, basically saying that he really enjoyed listening to a different perspective, because as he puts it, hearing different people's perspectives of the protest system, because he has his own perspective, obviously, and he's mired into it. It's one of those things where if you are, neck deep in mud, so to speak, it's hard to see anything else around you because you're inside of what's going on. So to see different perspectives from outside looking in, he actually pointed out a very good point, which I didn't even think of myself, was the fact that it helps him to get a different perspective on, on what other people see about the protest system. So I say that, which thank you, Nim, for that feedback on that. And Nim has actually suggested that he come back on the show. We interviewed him a couple months ago now, and suggested that he come back on the show and we talk about this a little bit more, because apparently it's a subject that you guys are really into as far as getting information about. And now that we've had some experiences since his last interview, then it would be a good time to kind of revisit this and, again, bring Nim on the show and get some different perspectives. So I wanted to mention that now. We're going to do it in probably a few weeks or something like that. We still have to figure out schedules with Nim and, Chad and myself. And but I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to send in any questions that you guys may have, because last time, we kind of sprung the fact that we had interviewed Nim after it had already happened. But this time I want to give you guys some advance notice so that you guys can send any questions you have about the protest system, anything that's going through your mind about this, so that we can have the expert on the show to answer those questions. So definitely make sure you send those questions into the best ways, our feedback address, which we talk about all the time at the end of the show. But in case you don't know, it's what is it? It's feedback at iRacingTodayRadio.com. I knew that. So send in any questions you have for Nim, and we will go through them. Obviously, understand that there'll be maybe questions that you may ask that Nim is unable to answer. I mean, he has his own responsibilities within the company, and he has, guidelines as to what he can discuss. So, if you ask a question that's not answered, don't be disappointed. He can only answer what he can answer. So, we'll give him the opportunity to see the questions beforehand, so to make sure there's nothing that we're going to touch on any taboo subjects. Nim's in our chat right now, and he just shouted out, "Answering questions? What?" As if he's surprised by all this. So anyway, so definitely send those questions in. I'm very interested to see what you guys have to think about on the subject and get some different perspectives. Nim has mentioned he wants those different perspectives so he can, make the system better, make it more understood, make sure that there's not this big, surprising cloud around it where everybody's just confused about what happens inside. I mean, Nim wants us to understand this system so we can use it better for our, for our mutual benefit. So, all of that being said, I think that's about it. There was a story time I was going to get into, but I'm fine with that. Maybe we'll discuss that at a later time. But thanks to everybody out there for all of your feedback on this subject. I really appreciate it. I'm glad that you're enjoying some of the topics that we're bringing up, because we're trying to just bring up different stuff. This isn't just about reading release notes or talking about our experiences. It's enhancing your guys' experience with iRacing, and bringing up these different topics, I think, definitely helps that. And you guys the feedback says that you agree. So this is all your fault, because you guys are saying that you like it. So,
It's your fault that the show stinks now.
I've been kind of talking for a bit there, Chad, but any other thoughts on this subject, or?
Not really, I guess. It's neat to see that it has kind of expanded into a thing where, it's like I kind of said last week. It's like the protest system used to be like a black cloud and kind of the black hat, and it was like you didn't really view it as something that would help you. It was almost like something bad in the corner. And now, the way that Nim's kind of talked, and in the way that we've kind of all had a new light shined on it, I guess, is it's almost made the protest in my mind, the best way I can explain it, and maybe it's this way for other people, is that it went from being the bad thing in the corner to being the thing like, well, wait a minute, this is actually in place to help us. It's not there to hurt us. It's there to help us in the fact that if there's a couple people that are acting, unprofessional and are, just being downright nasty, then the system's there to help us to remove them, and make our community more peaceful. So I'm kind of glad, all this has happened the way that it's happened, and I'm looking forward to seeing what people ask in their questions, and obviously, provided he can answer them, looking forward to seeing what Nim says.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Is the fact, the way that you put that there, is a lot of people had myself included, to be honest, the protest system was something hanging in the corner that I'd better not mess up or somebody's going to protest me, that's what people's perception of the system was, rather than, like I said, I keep going back to it, but I loved the way that Nim described, it is a method or an opportunity for coaching, because we always thought about it is a way to punish people who have done you wrong. And that's not that. I mean, yes, that happens, obviously, because there are people who are going out there and maliciously ruining other people's experiences, and that's has to be dealt with. But the way that he put that there was, it was just an opportunity to coach these people's behavior so that they could become, positive members of the community and enjoy the service like everybody else. Like that, I just love the way that he put that swing on the fact that, on the protest system, where we're, like I said, we're all thinking, oh no, protest, let's be careful, but that's not entirely what it's there for. And I think, you guys as listeners are now going out and, proving and, taking what we've mentioned and saying, let's use it for that purpose. Let's go out and try to use it as a tool to help make our experiences with the service better. So that was the feedback from Storytime with Trevor. Feedback. I know I said feedback twice, but it's not a jingle without feedback at the end of it. So, Mr. Rubik's Cube.
That's it.
Show notes first. Have we got everything? Did we get it all?
You got your Rubik's Cube figured out. All the colors are on the same side.
Okay, so with all of that being said, and 10 minutes till qualifying for my IndyCar race. For people who actually listen to this on audio later, it's like, man, I don't care. I'm just record the bloody show, and but I'm on a time limit. Thursday night is my iRacing night, show and race. So we will leave you again with another quote, and in case you're, we've mentioned it in the past, but where we get these quotes from is, I believe it is iRacing.com/testimonials, I think is where it is. So anyway, they have a huge page of testimonials, and we're just taking quotes from that to kind of give you an idea about what people think about the service from various walks of life. And we will leave you with the words of Eric Prill, who is the VP of Marketing and Communications at Sports Car Club of America, SCCA. You've seen the abbreviation many, many times, I'm sure. And he says, as the best racing drivers can attest, motorsport simulations are a very real training tool, and iRacing.com has developed an outstanding system not only for highly paid professionals, but for the people who race every weekend across the country in SCCA events. In addition to being an outstanding training tool, iRacing provides close, organized racing that any current or potential driver can be a part of, regardless of the time of day, the weather conditions outside, or if you even have a race car in your garage, as most of us do not. That was just me, sorry. Back to Eric. Whether you want to work on a particular track or just get in some additional racing, iRacing is something every racer should have. And we have definitely seen that, especially, like I said, we're talking about, the IndyCar League that, is currently being run. There are IndyCar racers who are just taking advantage of it for, I'm guessing, fun and keep their skills up in the off season. So anyway, with all of that being said, thank you very much for listening. And, thank you very much for sending all the feedback. We really appreciate you guys interacting with us and letting us know that we are not speaking into a vacuum. That makes us feel so much better, because if it was just me and a microphone and talking to Chad, I enjoy talking to Chad. That's fine. But you know what? It probably wouldn't do it every week.
I'm glad we're not getting sucked up.
We're getting what now?
The vacuum. We're not getting sucked up.
Wow. I just over my head, man. Wow. Over my head. Yeah. But thanks, everybody, for listening. We do appreciate it. Remember, the show is available for download on iTunes and Zune under the podcast section, where we would really appreciate a review to help us get the word out if you have not done so already. The show is also available on YouTube and Twitch on my channels, which is Ratface Productions. That's 2 T's and Ratface, in case you have forgotten. And how could you? Come on. And it is mirrored over on Chad's channel, which is It's Chadillac on his YouTube channel. You can check out the website for information, archive, links, and the polls you mentioned on the show over at iRacingTodayRadio.com. And we're halfway through the month, so make sure you go over and vote in that poll question if you have not done so already. And of course, remember to follow us on Twitter. I'm at iRacingToday, and Chad is over at It's Chadillac.
And you can email any questions, comments, poll suggestions, questions for Nim Cross, and your fave and non-fave tracks to feedback at iRacingTodayRadio.com. Of course, feel free to add myself and Trevor as friends on the iRacing.com members website. And if you aren't a member yet, and you decide to sign up and give it a try, please refer either Trevor or myself in the referral box when you sign up by entering Trevor's email, which is ratchface@gmail.com, or mine, which is iRacingLegend@gmail.com. But until next week, ladies and gentlemen, remember, the race is rarely won in the first turn,
but it is often lost there. So now for everybody listening live, as I mentioned before, I'll be live in about 5 minutes over on the on my IndyCar race over at Montreal. So I got to get on a plane really quick. So anyway, good night, everybody, and thank you very much for listening.